You've probably seen a thing or two about how much you need for retirement. Whether it's $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, how much is actually enough? I've helped families retire with far less, not because they needed to or had to give something up, but because we plan around their lives, not around calculators, spreadsheets, or rules of thumb. Today, I'm going to show you the exact 5-phase structure I use with my retirement planning clients, so you can see what's truly enough for you. Remember, this video is for educational purposes, and it's not financial advice. And investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Online advice tells us that we should have 3 times our salary saved by a certain age, or we should save X% of our salary per year, or we should never have debt. These financial rules of thumb can be fine as training wheels, but they don't exactly make great steering wheels. Our jobs, healthcare needs, housing situation, taxes, family, and other goals move the target from person to person, and it can be dramatic. This is why I don't use rules to help clients plan for their futures. I'll show you what I do instead. This is the part many people, including advisors, actually skip. No matter your stage in life, we always begin with a retirement plan. Here's why. When you know your plan is on track for a job-free future, the one thing you can't borrow for, every other financial decision you make becomes easier. Here's how we do it. We gather numbers, income, savings, debt, and more, and then we talk about what actually matters to our clients. We want to know their actual objectives. We ask them to imagine a life of total financial control. What do they visualize doing? Then, what could get in the way of them getting there? Is it a person, someone who counts on them financially or might someday? Or is it them? Could habits, lack of automation, or even their feelings about money be sabotaging their progress? We turn all of this stuff into real, actionable steps so people can have real confidence about their financial situation today and in the future. We use what's called a Monte Carlo simulation, showing thousands of possible financial outcomes to reduce guesswork, and best of all, it means you don't have to be a math guru to understand the probability that your plan will work. So whether it's a new car, yearly gifting, vacation home, a yearly getaway, you'll feel more confident making these short and medium-term decisions. There will be less guesswork because you'll be beginning with the end in mind. Everything you do in between falls into place. Now, in a high cost of living area like, say, New York City or the Bay Area, $2 million might be a good baseline to target. But in other areas, such as where I live in Pennsylvania, it really depends. I've had clients retire with less than $500,000 because their spending is modest, their mortgage is gone, and Social Security, plus a sensible portfolio, plus sometimes a pension, covers the gap. Now, that being said, do retirees with $1 million or more have more flexibility? Absolutely. But I won't tell you your retirement is $2 million or bust if the math and your needs don't say that. What I will tell you is this: your needs and goals drive how much you need in retirement. That's it. There is no magic number. Today, I'm going to show you our 5 levers of a successful retirement plan. Tapping into each one of these levers will make your plan feel more meaningful, more tailored to you, and allow you to feel more confident and free about your financial future. Lever 1 is discovery. Let's get honest about what you're really building. Before we get into numbers and start using financial calculators, we need to understand what's really important to you. This is not just an empty platitude. Your goals, experiences, hopes, and even fears shape every financial decision that follows. We like to ask, what does financial freedom look like for you? What keeps you up at night about money? What's your earliest memory of money? Thinking more deeply on these, do you want to stop working someday? Or do you just want the option to work less? Do you fear running out of money? Or do you fear missing out on life while chasing it? There's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions, but your answers are what shape you and motivate your financial decisions. We also have conversations about family history. How many people in your family have lived to age 100? Is there a family history of chronic health conditions? There are obvious implications to the answers to these questions. It affects how many years you need your money to last when you retire. While this is an open dialogue we have with our clients when we meet with them, you could start by writing these questions down, journaling about them, or even talking about them with a spouse or partner. In lever 2, we map to the destination. When you're planning a trip, you want to map it out first. In order to map it, you need to know where you're starting from. You can't navigate to Mount Everest from the middle of the woods with a backpack full of random stuff you just feel by weight and say, I think I know what's in there. That's what it's like to try to plan for retirement without your numbers. Think of your hiking gear as what you have today. Your 401k balance, your savings, your CDs, IRAs, Roth IRAs, 403bs, 457, stock options. Of course, you don't just want to know your values and balances. You also want to know your savings rate, which I'll talk more about in the next section of this video. You want to know not just what's in these, but how they're allocated between stocks, bonds, real estate, or alternatives. This is important because it will tell you how they could behave over time. You don't have control over their behavior, but you can use statistics without actually doing math to determine what they will do for you in retirement. Next, there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding the future of Social Security. As of the making of this video, the trust fund of Social Security payments is set to be depleted around 2033. Because of this, a lot of people don't feel comfortable including Social Security in their retirement plan at all. Personally, I think that's extreme, but the nice thing is, just like mapping a destination to anywhere, we can plan for worst case scenarios. You can get your Social Security statement by logging into your account at ssa.gov. If you don't have an account, you can create one in just a few easy steps. I recommend including Social Security in your plan and working backwards from there. Think of it as stress testing. It's kind of like saying, well, what if the bridge is out on the way? What will I do instead? Next, reaching the top of the mountain isn't the end. It's just reaching the next phase of the journey. On the descent, we're going to want to make sure everything we've gathered along the way and have left over from our journey is going to help us not just survive the way down, but thrive. If you've ever hiked, you know that the journey going down the mountain is a little different than the journey going up the mountain. Going up takes more effort and energy. That means you need to make more because you're saving, possibly paying more taxes, paying off debt that you might not have in retirement, and paying for benefits you might not even need in retirement. Now, when we work with clients, we use a cash flow worksheet to get a full understanding of their needs and lifestyle. However, in my experience, and a lot of financial experts agree with this, a good rule of thumb is about 80% of your pre-tax income adjusted for inflation will be about your annual need in retirement. Now, we all know how I feel about generic rules, but I understand that if you don't keep a budget, it can be overwhelming to go through and try to track every expense from A to Z for the first time ever. And that could stop you from going through this important exercise. And I don't want that to happen. Lever 3 is savings that respect your life. Let's talk about saving in a way that actually respects your lifestyle. Full transparency, my wife and I lean a little frugal, but most of our clients do not. But work with people who value financial security, but they also value living well now. That means trips with family, concerts, dining out, time together, not someday, now. So the question becomes, how do we enjoy life today while still building a secure financial future? That's where planning tools come in. We use one called Right Capital, and once we've learned your goals and entered details, that's savings, income, investments, Social Security, pensions, all of it, we run what's basically a financial weather forecast. It's called a Monte Carlo simulation. Like a real forecast, it's not 100% accurate, but it is grounded in data. It runs your plan through thousands of possible market weather patterns. Some years are sunny, some years are stormy. Then we look at how often your plan makes it the whole way through retirement without running out of money. If, for example, it succeeds 85% of the time, that means 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're in great shape, even when the market throws you curveballs. That's how we replace hope with probability. Now, here's the part that surprises most people. We don't actually want your plan to work 100% of the time, because to hit 100%, the math forces you to play defense in every single worst case scenario. You'd have to save more, spend less, and take less investment risk than what you really need to. That's kind of like living as if a hurricane is coming every single week. Sure, it keeps you safe, but you'll miss all the sunny days. Statistically, the sweet spot is between 70 and 90%. Below 70%, your forecast is too stormy. In other words, there's too much risk of falling short. Above 90%, you're being overly cautious, and that means you're giving up opportunities either now or later. So we aim for a balanced middle. Strong odds of success, but permission to enjoy your life today. Once we see your number, we decide how we can adjust. If you're below 70%, maybe we tweak savings, retirement age, or your investments. If you're above 90%, we can loosen the reins. Maybe you take that big trip, add more charitable giving, add in a vacation home, or plan for more travel in retirement. The point isn't perfection, it's confidence, knowing you can live well today and still have the future you're working for. Phase 3.5, asset allocation, make your money work smarter. Before we move into our next section, there's one key piece that ties this all together, and that's how your money is actually invested. You've probably heard the term asset allocation. It's just the mix between things like stocks, bonds, cash, real estate, or sometimes other types of investments. This mix matters far more than any one hot stock or single mutual fund. Research has shown most of a portfolio's long-term results come from its overall allocation, not its individual investments. Here's the big idea. Even if you're saving diligently, if your investments are too conservative, you might be holding yourself back. But if you're too aggressive right before retirement, for example, you might be setting yourself up for an unnecessary setback. So building your plan is about finding the right balance between growth and stability. During your working years, you'll most likely lean more heavily into stocks to try to capture more growth. As retirement approaches, you might start to tilt more towards bonds and cash to both protect what you've built and provide income. Now, inside that allocation, cost matters a lot. Every dollar you pay in investment expenses is a dollar that can't compound for your financial future. A 1% difference in fees might not sound like much, but over decades, it can easily add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's why it's important to focus on keeping costs low through broadly diversified low-cost funds. And that leads to the question of active management versus passive management. Active funds try to beat the market by picking individual stocks or timing trends. Passive funds or index funds simply track the market. There is no trying to beat it. Over time, data shows that the vast majority of active managers underperform their benchmarks after fees. It doesn't mean all active funds are bad. Some do have value. But as a long-term strategy, keeping costs and internal portfolio turnover low has historically produced better, more reliable results. So rather than chasing headlines or star managers, we focus on diversified allocation that fits your goals, uses low-cost investments wherever possible, and stays consistent through all kinds of markets. Because investing success doesn't always come from predicting the next big thing. It comes from patience, discipline, and keeping more of what's already yours. Lever 4, tax planning for a lifetime. Once you've built a retirement plan and figured out your savings rate, the next question is, where should your dollars actually go? And that's where tax planning comes in. And I want to make a distinction here because a lot of people confuse this part. Tax advice is about your return, deductions, credits, forms, whatever you owe this year. Tax planning is about your future, how to structure your savings and withdrawals so you keep more of your money over your lifetime, not just this April. When you save or invest, every dollar lands in one of three places. First, there's pre-tax, like a 401k or traditional IRA. You get the deduction now, but pay taxes when you take it out later. Then there's tax-free, like Roth IRA or Roth 401k. You pay the tax now, but withdrawals are later completely tax-free. And then there's taxable, which is just a regular brokerage account. It's flexible, but you'll pay some taxes along the way on things like dividends, interest, and realized capital gain. The goal of tax planning isn't to make these buckets perfectly even. In fact, that's not necessarily realistic or necessarily even ideal. Instead, we focus on a mix that gives you options later. Here's why that flexibility matters. During your working years, your income is usually at its peak, and oftentimes so are your tax rates. That's often a good time to fill up more of the pre-tax bucket, especially if you're a higher earner. You get an immediate tax deduction, which can save you thousands of dollars this year. Then later, once you retire and your income drops, you can pull that money back out at a lower tax rate. On the other hand, if you're earlier in your career in a lower tax bracket or expecting income to rise over time, it can make more sense to prioritize Roth or tax-free savings. You pay the tax now while rates are relatively low, and all the growth from that point forward later comes out tax-free. There's also a middle zone that most people don't think about. Those gap years between when you stop working and Social Security or retired withdrawals begin. That's often the ideal time to do Roth conversions, intentionally moving money from the pre-tax bucket to the tax-free bucket while you're in a lower tax bracket. This isn't about timing the market, it's about timing your taxes. Tax planning is about understanding your unique timeline, your working years, your gap years, and your retirement years, and designing a strategy that fits your life. Good tax planning, unfortunately, doesn't mean you'll never pay taxes. It means you'll pay them when it's most efficient, when it costs less to do so, and it means you'll have more choices later on. When you have flexibility, you're not just building wealth, you're also building control. Control over how you take income, when you need it, and how much of it you actually keep and split with Uncle Sam. Lever 5, let automation do the heavy lifting. All the planning in the world only works if you actually make it happen. And the best way to make sure it happens is to remove willpower from the equation as much as possible. That's where automation comes in. When I talk about automation, I don't just mean setting up direct deposit or automatic savings. I mean creating a system where saving, investing, and even spending happen on purpose without you having to constantly think about them. Think about your 401k. It's one of the most powerful wealth building tools around. Not necessarily because of the investments themselves, but because it's automatic. Every pay period, the money goes in before you ever even see it. No emotion, no timing the market, no second guessing. That's why so many people wake up one day and say, hey, wait, when did I hit $1 million? Our goal is to create the same consistency across the rest of your plan. That means setting up automatic transfers to your Roth IRA, to your HSA, or brokerage account right after each paycheck. It might mean automating bills or charitable giving too, so you don't have to rely on motivation or memory. The beauty of automation is that it turns good decisions into defaults. You make the smart choice once, and then the system keeps repeating it for you. Automation doesn't make you passive, it just makes you intentional. Instead of reacting to every market headline or having the emotional urge to do something, your plan is quietly working in the background, letting you focus on living your life. That's what financial freedom really is. Not just having enough money, but having a structure that frees your mind from money. So when the market dips or headlines get noisy, you don't have to wonder what to do next. You've already decided, and you have a system that's carrying it out for you. As Warren Buffett puts it, we don't have to be smarter than the rest, we just have to be more disciplined. Automation is how discipline becomes effortless. And that's the final piece of the puzzle. When you combine clear goals, balanced savings, smart tax planning, and automation, you're not just building a retirement, you're building a financial life that supports who you are and what matters most to you. So that's the structure we use and the same one you can use to bring real clarity to your retirement plan. Start with what you truly want life to look like, map the destination, save in a way that respects your life today, invest intentionally, plan for taxes over a lifetime, not just next April, and then automate everything so it actually happens. When you do these things, you'll notice something shift. Money stops feeling like a constant question mark and starts feeling like a tool, one that supports the life you want to live both now and later. If you want to see what this looks like with your numbers, this is what we do every day. There's a link in the description to schedule a short, free consultation. No sales pitch, just a real conversation about your goals, your plan, and where you want to go. Because your retirement shouldn't be built around somebody else's number, it should be built around you. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.